Hello, welcome back. This is going to be part 5 of my introduction into CSS series. I'm just going to go through a couple points that I'd like to, that I feel like I missed certain details on. So first thing is going to be group selectors. If we go back to our example here in the CSS document, so you can actually group selectors. An example here is this body CSS declaration. You can actually, with a comma, add other selectors. So let's select all the PHTML elements. So now what this means is that all the body tags, all the body HTML elements, and all the PHTML elements will actually apply the CSS styling within this rule set. Okay, so it's a handy way of if you want to style certain HTML elements the same way, you don't have to repeat the rule set. An example, you don't have to write a P and then make another color red here. You can simply use a comma and add that selector there. Okay, moving on, you can also append classes and IDs to be more specific with the HTML elements that you are selecting. So an example here, let's create a P selector, and then you can actually append, for example, an ID here. And if we hover over this, you can see now that we're selecting all the PHTML elements that have an ID of purple. Okay, so you simply attach this ID to the element. Okay, and notice there's no space as well. You can do the same thing with a class. So if we do P and then dot to indicate class, and then the class name of green, which we've defined here, and hover over this, you can see now that we're selecting all the PHTML elements that have a class of green. Okay, and do note you can append as many selectors as you like. So I can also add an ID here of purple. And if we hover over that, you can see that we're selecting all the PHTML elements that have a class of green and an ID of purple. Okay, so you can think of this way as being in the same level. So notice there's no spaces. The selectors are all in the same level. Now if we add spaces, the space indicates moving down one level, moving one level nested within the element. As you can see now, as I hover over this, we are now selecting all the elements that have a class of green that are nested inside a PHTML element. Okay, so this not only increases specificity, but it allows us to be more specific with the HTML elements that we are selecting. You can do the same thing with IDs. Right, purple. Right, so we're selecting all the elements with an ID of purple that are within a PHTML element. Now if we add another space here and hover over this, you can see that we're now 2 levels nested within. So whenever you add a space and then another selector, that indicates moving down one nested level. Okay, so now we're selecting all HTML elements. Let me change this. So now we're selecting all HTML elements that have a class of green that are nested within an element that has an ID of purple that's nested within a PHTML element. Okay, so you can see how it allows us to be more specific in selecting HTML elements.